Welcome back to the channel. This video here is a touchy one. It's going to be quick. I want to get right to the point. But first, let me ask you if you can hit that like, subscribe, and at the end of the video, comment if you like. I really appreciate it. It'll help this platform grow. It'll help me reach a wider audience. And I thank you very much just for giving me this time. I got 20 new subscribers in one day. Now that's something big to me. Maybe not to others, but to me, my 12-year-old son, we really appreciate it. But let's get right into this. This one here, like the thumbnail says, becoming an addict in prison. It's something that I witnessed from the time I started going to prison. I witnessed it firsthand. I seen it. I didn't like it. It made me feel different about the older guys that that at the time I would look up to. I couldn't see how they can let someone that never tried Gada. For those of you who don't know, it's black or heroin, California heroin, West Coast heroin, the black stuff. I know the East Coast they got China white, but I seen it several times, and I didn't understand why at the time. But later on, as I got older, I realized that people did it just to pass time. The way I witnessed it is there was something about me that I blended in with the older dudes, the older crowd. Even though I was young, I blended in, whether it was the way I carried myself, the way I spoke to people, the respect I gave to everyone, and they never had no problem with it. When I learned what they were doing, I really didn't trip on it because I kind of had a feeling they were doing it already. I've been around it when I was younger. My sister had older homeboys that they would do it in our garage, and I caught them a few times, all nodded out. So it didn't really affect me. I just thought that was them. That's what they do. So be it. And it was to the point where whenever they hit, they would have me squeeze their arm real tight. So they don't got to wrap it up with nothing. I would just squeeze their arm, their veins would come out, and they would hit and start nodding out. Then it's the next man's turn. So to me, when I saw an older dude doing that, it didn't affect me. It didn't affect me until I saw them inviting younger guys. And I didn't realize it at the time, but now that I think about it, or when I thought about it, I realized it was because the younger dudes had money and they were paying for it, or they were paying for the issue that was coming in. I don't know how much it was, but I know that they were covering the cost. Because when the younger dudes were in there, I was young at the time. It seemed like the parents would send them money more often than the older guy. An older guy had to depend on his wife or kids if he had any kids or if he had a wife. But the younger guys, they had their parents and older siblings. They had any older siblings that would always look out for them. So when I thought about it, I realized it. I knew that was the reason. And there was a time when I almost fell into that, but I didn't because I knew it cost money. I knew it cost money that my mom didn't have. And she was the only one looking out for me when I first got locked up. I had friends looking out for me when I was in county jail, but I was in there so long that by the time I got to a prison, uh, it was already out of sight, out of mind. So money wasn't like that. I didn't have it like that. I might have had like $40 a month. That was it. I was cool. Get my hygiene, give me some noodles, and I'm on my way. That I'll make that last. That'll cover me for the month until I started to get a hustle. Now, when I started hustling, money wasn't no issue. But when I looked at these youngsters and they would try this for the first time, I was kind of disgusted. I was disgusted with the older dudes on, like, why were they letting these dudes do this? They were young kids. Why were they letting them do that? To me, that it took a little respect away that I had for them. I seen them in a different way, and I made a commitment to myself that if I ever had any say so, if I ever had any authority, that I wasn't gonna let that happen. Not on my watch. And if it meant somebody was gonna get rolled up, then that was just what it was gonna be like. See, I was in a different car. I didn't run with the North or the South. I ran with the Fresno Bulldog car. And my federal experience, which I went to the feds first, it was a lot different than my state experience. So when I got to the state, I was already sort of laced up. And this is why I noticed all this. Federal prison, I didn't notice this. It wasn't something that I fucked with. It was a whole different environment. And there I found a way to where I was a supplier. But that's another story. I did mention in one of my stories way back about the prison romance or romance in prison. You guys need to check that one out. That's a pretty decent one. It's funny now that I think about it. It's funny, but I didn't have to experience none of that. It's when I got to the state joint that I noticed that and I seen that. As time went on, I must have seen within my first year maybe 3 or 4 youngsters. At this time, we were cool with the Southerners, so I seen Southerners, youngsters, get addicted. Um, I didn't really have no interaction with Northerners, but I knew they were doing it too. Because my homeboy was the main plug. He was the main plug. Every weekend he was hitting, and I know he used to uh, sell a good amount to the Northerners. Anybody's gonna tell you that there was no drug use on the yard by the Northerners, that's not true. I witnessed it myself. I seen it. I mean, when you see somebody high on heroin, you know they're high on heroin, just like any other drug I would suppose. So I knew they were getting they were buying their issue, and I know who was getting high, who wasn't getting high. And to top it off, this was in Corcoran too. Corcoran too with the SATF, Substance Abuse Treatment Facility, where there was no treatment whatsoever. The only treatment yard was a yard, and at this time, Robert Downey Jr. was there. But every other yard was just like every other prison. When I was in Pleasant Valley, I didn't I didn't even witness that. I only had one homeboy that would do that in my building, and him and another dude from another building. They would go in there. They would go in their cell and do what they had to do. But when I got to SATF, I noticed that shit was happening a lot. There was so much drugs there. Um, my homeboy was hitting every weekend. Friday and Saturday. So it was drugs everywhere. And it came to the point where I had a couple older homeboys that they weren't the shot callers. We didn't have no shot callers, but everybody looked up to them because they've been around. It came to the point where nobody no longer respected them because all they wanted to do was get high. And people started to turn to me for advice if something were to happen, if there was anything going on the yard. The the guys with the keys from the north and south, they would come and talk to me. By this time, I was already like 29 years old, and we would get it taken care of. Now they say there was no shot callers on for the Bulldogs. There wasn't. But if there was a time where one of us was in the wrong, um, it would get fixed. It would get worked out. It wasn't just um, that we were going to do whatever we wanted and not listen to nobody. We didn't listen to nobody's orders, but when they had something to say and they came to talk to me, I listened. And if it could be worked out, it's worked out. If it can't, then we just had to deal with it. It didn't happen much because I knew right from wrong. I knew what it was like um, for someone to be disrespectful, and I would make it a point to talk to that certain person by myself. Just school them down a little bit. Most of the time it was a youngster. I wouldn't really tell him what to do. I would just tell him what would be best. Because if we got ourselves into trouble, it was going to be all of us, not just him. So why wreck the car? But anyways, there was so much drugs there. Like I said, my older homeboy was like one of the main plugs, and he didn't have to, but it was up to him where he would break off the Southerners. He would give them an issue. Whatever they did with it, they did with it. But that was his choice. It was up to him. It was his. Nobody can tell him not to. But that's what it's like when you're on a program yard and there's so many drugs there, so many people making money. Nobody wants to fuck it up. Nobody wants to fuck it up because then it's gonna, mess it up for everybody. Everybody was getting high. Everybody was smoking weed. Everybody was smoking meth. So on. There was so much weed there that you can walk around the track. The CO smelled it, but they didn't do nothing. They didn't say nothing. You know, you're not gonna smoke it in front of them, but when you smoke it and you walk past them, they can smell it. But the thing I didn't like I was saying, I got off track. Like I was saying, is when these young dudes, 18, 19, 20, would start using, would start uh, slamming heroin. And if it was one of my homeboys, then they were gonna get told something. You know, I was only there to give advice. I wasn't there to tell them what they could and couldn't do. I was just there to give them advice and let them know their decision is probably the wrong one. And if they listen, they listen. If they didn't, they didn't. But I wasn't the type that was gonna get in a wreck, over some bullshit, especially no drugs. But like I was saying, they were the ones with the money. They were the ones with the girlfriend or wife that was looking out for them. They were just starting out. So when you're just starting out, you know, your girlfriend and your people, they're gonna take care of you pretty good. They're hoping it's the only time. They're hoping when you get out, you're not gonna go back. Unfortunately, these guys they start using, and I seen some go and come right back. You know, and it was always uh, the 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 habit that would bring them back. Now, whether they got there with the habit or not, I didn't know. I didn't know them before then, but I know when they left with the habit. If they listened, they listened. If they didn't, they didn't. Oh well. There's not much I can do or say. But it made me look different. Like I was saying, it made me look different at the older dude because I didn't think that was right. I mean, I wouldn't do that. If anything, I was the type of guy that I was hoping you got out, and I was hoping you didn't come back. You know, being a homeboy or not, I was hoping that you didn't never come back. And I would try to talk to the younger dudes every day, all the time, about staying out, doing the right thing. And when I think about it now, I was probably doing something right. I was probably saying something right. That's me knocking on wood, because you can never say never. Because when I got out, I never went back. I never went back, and I'm not gonna say that I never did nothing, but I'll just say that um, I probably was a little bit smarter. But up until today, I don't do shit. You know, I don't do nothing. Stay home with my family. Um, Trying to get on disability because I got injured at work, so I got too many problems to worry about. Other shit. I guess you can say I got adulthood problems, bill problems, gas problems, food problems. I got all those problems, and it's something I got to deal with all the time. But it's a struggle. I struggle daily. I've been struggling. I've been struggling all my life. But most recently, it's more of a struggle. No income is a bitch. That's why I'm doing this YouTube thing. I like it. Don't get me wrong. I like sharing stories with you guys. I like talking to you guys. But that's the real reason why I'm doing this. Because I see other people doing it. They're making money. Hey, I might as well give it a shot, right? I want to thank you for subscribing. Please like, share, hit the notification bell. And like always, hope everybody's doing well. Hope your family and kids are safe. I'm out. Peace.